What's the deal with vinyl records in 2026? To find out the answer to that question, we gotta go back just a little bit, almost 100 years in fact. So in 1931, radio stations around the world got their hands on the first vinyl records that were used by DJs to play music on air. And in 1948, Columbia Records released the first 12-inch LP format records that we know and love today. These little discs right here. The invention of the vinyl record proved to actually be a monumental stepping stone for music history, as it was the first mass-produced recorded music format that was available to the public. So, in other terms, outside of live music, you really only had the radio to depend on. And as the years went by, vinyl records actually became a huge market and was the flagship standard for home listening. Then came when we had made our shift over to cassettes and eventually CDs. They proved to be far more desirable for their durability, lower cost, higher audio fidelity, and obviously their portability. This new age of CDs had most people at the time either trading in or in some cases even just throwing out their record libraries and switching over to all digital, as CDs just became more prevalent at the time. Throughout the early 2000s, vinyl records rapidly started to decrease in sales, and they hit their lowest point in 2006, which we'll actually circle back to that here in a second. Now, as CDs were rapidly taking over the sales in record stores, another major problem started to rear its head, and that's now, with Napster launching in 1999 and LimeWire launching in 2000, people became more aware of their ability to download music for free as internet speeds around the country continued to get faster. And so in an attempt to capitalize on this new customer profile, Listen.com launched Rhapsody in 2001. Now, I don't know if anybody else here remembers Rhapsody, but Rhapsody was essentially the grandfather to the whole modern subscription-based music streaming formula that we use today. Not to mention that it was also around this time that we started to see services like iTunes pop up, where you can purchase your music still, but you get a digital copy instead of something physical. So essentially, with an all-out attack on record sales from both CDs and streaming and digital stores, how did vinyl records survive and even come to thrive 20 years after they hit their lowest sales numbers? Well, to answer that question, that would bring us to so just a year after record sales hit their lowest point, an employee at a Bull Moose record store by the name of Chris Brown, no, not that Chris Brown, pitched an idea to host an independently ran music event which would help to drive traffic to brick and mortar record stores. And they decided to take inspiration from the then popular Free Comic Book Day and make what is now known as Record Store Day. So on the third Saturday of every April, Record Store Day essentially aims to bring communities together at their local record stores, and with a lot of incentives like exclusive record pressings every year, free prizes, raffles, concerts, posters. I mean, the list goes on and on. But many people are brought in essentially by these things to help support the stores and just listen to some good music and have a good time. I mean, I've met some really cool people at Record Store Day. It's a really good time, you know, and it's that sense of community and just something else to go do, something to look forward to that really helped to bring more attention back to vinyl records just as a whole in general. And so once Record Store Day had started, vinyl records saw a large resurgence in sales literally in 2007, a year after they hit their lowest point. And around the year 2020, record sales actually surpassed CD sales for the first time since like the 1980s. Now, why do people care so much about keeping this basically dead format alive? You may be asking. And well, I would say that's a very loaded question, but I do actually have some statistics as well as like my own personal theories. But for the sake of brevity, I'll just try to, keep things pretty simple. So it essentially has been expressed by a lot of people that a huge appeal to records is the large artwork printed on the sleeves. I mean, one of the examples I had at the beginning is a great album by The Promise Ring. This is Nothing Feels Good. I think this cover art for this record is absolutely awesome. And just to see it blown up, press in really high quality like that is just really sick, And with that being said, these tend to act as a form of decor in a lot of people's homes, even if they aren't necessarily listening to them. Another big appeal that personally resonates with me as somebody who actually spins their records is that you actually get to financially support the artist. It's another form of merch. It's another way to show that you are supporting somebody, right? In the modern day of streaming, artists are getting paid less and less when people listen to their music, even though more people are listening to their music more often. Vinyl records essentially become a unique merch opportunity that's also functional and oftentimes somewhat affordable. But I think there's one big elephant in the room here when we're talking about this, and that's these days, it seems like everything, everywhere, all the time is either trying to sell you something or keep you looking at a screen. And if you feel that way, you're not necessarily wrong. Companies have rapidly switched over to more predatory models that are constantly trying to keep your attention on your screens as much as possible so you can consume more ads and in turn purchase more products from those ads. Countless people have been expressing online that they are going through these stages of digital fatigue. Even trends like analog bags, which is a whole nother thing, have become more prevalent as people yearn for a life we once had that was far less dependent on technology and cell phones. With this push against predatory algorithms and marketing, a lot of people are looking at ways to enjoy the things that they do normally online, offline. And this brings us to our So even if you take all these things into consideration and don't feel compelled to devote a bunch of time and energy, money, and physical space to collecting records, you're definitely not alone. It's not for everybody. Although collecting records isn't unanimously superior, many people prefer them for a slew of different reasons to music streaming. I also want to say that physical media preservation in general is just more important now than it has ever been. I mean, many companies are trying to make a full switch to digital media that you don't own in order to save on production costs and give you a product that isn't even yours to keep. Sony has just announced that for their PlayStation 6, they will be moving to digital games only. These problems are not unique to only one form of media either. If you're a passionate person about movies, games, music, books, whatever it may be, I highly suggest you look into building a small personal collection because owning our media is what makes it special. That's what makes it resonate with us. And that, folks, is the deal with vinyl records in 2026. Thank you.